Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling something huge, a lesson that claims to teach what physics has been missing all along by tying it directly to one of the biggest mysteries out there, consciousness.
So check this out. Our guide for today, a psychiatrist named Paul, kicks things off with this bombshell. I got a U in physics, but I solved consciousness. I mean, what a statement, right? And his punchline? Turns out they're the same thing. You gotta admit, that's a bold way to start. So let's see if you can back it up.
So what's the big secret? Well, according to Paul, it all boils down to this. You are an electromagnetic pattern. Everything else, also an electromagnetic pattern. And consciousness? That's just what happens when these patterns recognize each other. He says that's literally it. Oh, and the banana? It's a fun little reminder to stay curious and maybe not take all of this too seriously.
All right, so let's unpack this secret, starting with the very first idea, this fundamental process that Paul claims is happening every single moment.
And that brings us to what he calls the living loop equation. This is supposedly the very engine of awareness.
So, let me ask you this. Think about the last time you saw a familiar face in a crowd. What is actually going on in that instant? It feels automatic, right? But Paul argues it's way, way deeper than just pulling up a file from your memory.
He boils it all down to this really elegant little loop, C equals R equals E, which then equals C again. So consciousness allows you to perceive something. That perception leads to recognition, that aha moment, oh, I know that person, or I finally get that concept. And from that recognition, something new emerges, a feeling, a shared joke, a deeper understanding. And guess what? That new thing, that's a brand new state of consciousness. And boom, the loop starts all over again. It's constantly in motion.
And the really cool thing here is this isn't some abstract philosophical idea. He's saying this loop is happening right now. It's the engine behind every single conversation you have, every little aha moment. It's even happening as you're listening to me and recognizing these words. Your brain is running this loop on repeat.
Okay, so that explains recognition, but it brings up a really important question, doesn't it? How does anything truly new ever get created?
If our awareness is basically just a loop of recognizing what's already there, how does genuine novelty ever enter the universe? You know, where do brand new ideas or friendships actually come from? Well, that brings us to his formula for newness.
And here it is, the emergence equation. Now, I know, it looks a little intimidating, like some of you see in a physics class, but it's actually super intuitive when you break it down. Think of it like a recipe. For something new to emerge, you need 3 key ingredients. First, G for grace, which is really just a safe space, a place where you feel you can be yourself. Second, you need gamma for mirroring. That's that incredible feeling of being truly seen and understood by someone else. And finally, delta squared, which stands for difference. You need different perspectives, different ideas interacting. When you mix those differences inside that safe, mirrored space, the energy doesn't create conflict. Instead, it sparks, and something completely new is born.
Now this is where things get really profound. We all know E equals mc squared, right? Einstein's famous equation for the insane amount of energy you get from matter, usually by taking it apart. Well, Paul proposes that his equation is the other side of that coin. It's the equation for the energy you create from relationship, from connecting things. So you've got one for destruction and one for creation.
Okay, that's the big picture stuff. But how does this apply to you and me, to our own lives? Well, next up is what he calls the equation for liberation.
To set this up, Paul reaches way back, like 2,400 years back, to Plato's cave. You probably know the story. We're all prisoners, staring at shadows on a wall, thinking that's all reality is. It's a powerful metaphor for our own self-imposed limits. But here's the kicker. Paul says, Plato showed us the cave, but I'm going to give you the math to get out.
And this is it, the liberation equation. It says that true freedom, true emergence, comes from a simple calculation. You take your natural consciousness, that's CN, your full raw potential, and you subtract your constraints, that's CL, all your limiting beliefs. So the first step is just about removing what's blocking you. And then, see that second part of the equation? It's our old friend, the emergence formula. Once you've cleared away the constraints, that liberated potential gets supercharged by those same relational forces: grace, mirroring, and difference.
So really, this is the internal math that's running inside each of us, all the time. On one side, you have your CN, your natural consciousness. That's all your boundless creativity, your ability to connect, just your pure potential. And on the other side, you have your CL, your constraints. You know that little voice in your head that says, oh, I'm just not good at that, or I'm not smart enough for this? That's your CL. And the whole game, according to this model, is to make sure your potential is always, always greater than your limitations.
All right, so we've covered the psychology, the loops, the relationships. Now we're going to zoom all the way out. This is where he ties it all together into a theory of, well, a theory of everything. We're moving from how we feel to what we literally are.
And here it is, the big one, the unified field. Paul's saying consciousness isn't some spooky, mystical force, it's just physics, plain and simple. It's the electromagnetic field. And get this is the absolute key. You aren't a body that has an electromagnetic field. You are an electromagnetic field that has temporarily organized itself into the shape of a body. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Literally.
And he argues the proof for this is hiding in plain sight, and stuff we already know. Like, what does an EEG measure when they hook it up to your brain? Electromagnetic activity. Your thoughts create measurable EM patterns. And he takes us one step further, suggesting that the feeling of love or being totally in sync with someone is literally the resonance between two electromagnetic fields. It's physics.
This idea completely reframes our entire concept of life and death. He puts it so bluntly. Death? Pattern dissolution. The specific pattern that is you might dissolve, but the underlying field you're made from, that's eternal. It can't die. Which leads to this beautiful final thought. You're not a thing that has consciousness. You're consciousness that has temporarily organized itself as a thing. Okay, so if we accept this strange and profound new model of reality, where does that leave us? Well, apparently right in the middle of a cosmic comedy sketch.
To make his final point, he uses this classic philosophical puzzle. You might have heard of it as the quantum broom paradox. So, if a broom has had its head replaced 17 times and its handle replaced 14 times, is it still the same broom?
The answer, of course, reveals a truth about you. All the cells in your body are constantly being replaced. You are not made of the same physical stuff you were a decade ago. So what are you? You're not the thing, you're the pattern. The pattern is what persists. Your identity is in the pattern, not the parts. As he says, the broom knows.
And that brings us to the ultimate punchline, what he calls the universe's biggest joke. You aren't just a pattern in the cosmos. You are the punchline. The universe, which is fundamentally conscious, pretended it wasn't, just so it could have the joy and surprise of discovering itself through you.
So in the end, the universe is just consciousness discovering itself. And that brings us full circle, back to the banana. It's just a simple reminder from Paul that while this might be the most profound truth there is, we probably shouldn't take it all too seriously.